A mid-Michigan mother who suffered an unimaginable loss is reaching out to others who have been in her position. Sally Grablick from Davison is the author of The Reason, a book written in the wake of her son's suicide. But the book is not about his death. It's about how you emerge from the heartbreak to help others. Let's start there.
Yes, I didn't write the book specific to suicide because grief is really a universal topic. It's something none of us can avoid. We all have to deal with grief at a certain point in our lives, and so I wanted to make sure that my story was able to reach those people who needed it the most.
It's a remarkable book. How do you start with something like that after going through what you went through?
Well, it was funny because what I ended up doing was as I was going through the process, I wrote little notes about things that touched me, things that I found helpful, and I accumulated so much information, I finally realized that I needed to do something with it, and in my mind's eye, it was to share my story with those people who needed it. Grief shouldn't be that hard to navigate through, but it was hard because I didn't find the resources I really needed.
And what is something about grief you'd like everyone to know?
I'd like people to know that grief is a process. It's not something that you get over. That's a huge misconception, and it's a little aggravating for us grievers because they expect that after the funeral we are going to be better and move forward. But the truth is that the real grief doesn't kick in until about 30 days.
Yeah.
And so people need to be patient with us and let us grieve on our own time.
In the book, you kind of wrote about when you're planning the funeral, you have all these steps that you have to go through in the immediate days after, but then after all of that's over, you're just, what do you do now?
Yeah, it's like, you know, what the heck do you do?
Yeah.
And there's really no direction for grief, which is very disturbing. The only direction I got was give it time and try. You know, people are trying to be nice, but that's not really very helpful.
Right.
So I had to read over 100 books in order to navigate our way through grief, and it was just such a painful experience. And when you have to read that much and work that hard at it, it's really not that necessary. And I guess that's what prompted me to write our story, was if I could wade through all that information and create one book that would make it easier for people, then that's what I wanted to do. And so I wrote the book I couldn't find.
Yeah. Is there something unique about your story you'd like to share that may be different from the other books out there?
Yes, I think that what's probably not necessarily unique, but in the sense that it's different, is the fact that I'm not afraid to talk about spirit contact. In fact, what motivated me to really share our story was that my son is a very active spirit, and he's been very helpful in our grief process. I think it's very interesting for people to know that the one thing that people are grabbed onto in my story is that fact, and they're always very anxious to share their stories of spirit contact with me. I think it's sad that we have to keep it to ourselves, that we're so afraid that we're going to look at like we're crazy. We're not crazy. We're just very blessed that we're given those helpful tools from the other side.
Well, thank you so much for coming in and sharing your story with us this morning.